An incredibly damning Wall Street Journal report has revealed that the would-be assassin, Ryan Routh, the man who attempted to take Donald Trump's life over the weekend, has been previously reported to several government agencies, including the FBI, Customs and Border Patrol, and the State Department. But no serious action was taken until it was almost too late. So before I give you the details, John, has government always been this incompetent, or is this like a relatively new, revelation? Like what's going on here?
Well, I mean, yes, in a general sense, I do think that it's always been incompetent because unfortunately, at least up until the present, it's always been staffed by humans and humans are inherently fallible. I do think that like a person being reported can mean many things and it can be taken seriously or not for good reasons or for bad reasons. And even once, like, there is a wide range of behaviors that would make a regular person look at another person and say that person is a danger. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything legally that can be done about it at that point. Like there are a lot of gray areas of concern that are not really actionable, at least in like an open and democratic society. Like, you could be concerned about a person, you can get a creepy vibe, you can see something threatening, but we don't just lock people up. I mean, thankfully, there have been many cases that we've talked about in which the FBI has stepped in and stopped something. It looks like there's maybe a situation like that in Florida that just happened. And so we have to evaluate the actual evidence, like what was known about them. And I know that you're about to present that in this case.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
Yeah, and look, he did have some run-ins with the law previously, including a standoff with police for several hours. He was found to have what they referred to, was it a weapon of mass destruction? It was like a fully automatic gun and some other weapons that he wasn't supposed to have because he was already convicted. Anyway, just disaster. So let's talk about why he was reported to these government agencies earlier. So there were a lot of red flags during his time in Ukraine. So Chelsea Walsh, who's a nurse who served in Ukraine, reported him to Customs and Border Patrol back in 2022 because his behavior was alarming. Chelsea Walsh showed the officer a notebook listing more than a dozen names of Americans and others whose actions had alarmed her, she recounted, under the heading overall predatory behavior or antisocial traits, were 4 names. Routh's was at the top. When the officer noted that there were a lot of names, she replied, of all the people on there, Ryan Routh should be number 1, Walsh told the Wall Street Journal, which reviewed her notebook. And here's why she was so disturbed by him. So he talked about wanting to kill Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. Walsh recalled saying he also mentioned Trump and President Biden, though Walsh said she couldn't recall if he threatened them. That's not good. I mean, look, I don't really know what the correct response to this is, because you do bring up a good point. If someone raises alarm about someone, you don't just automatically throw them in prison, right? But was there an investigation into this after Chelsea Walsh raised concerns about him? Like, that's what I'm always curious about, right? Like, you see it happen when it comes to like school shootings as well. The school shooting happens and then you find out that there were reports raising red flags about the shooter before the shooter happened. Okay, well, was there a robust investigation into this? Did they see if the shooter had access to weapons? You get what I'm saying? Like, that's what I really want to know. Because if these government agencies actually did an investigation and there wasn't anything that they could, take him into custody for, then I'm not really sure there was a solution in preventing him from getting so close to Donald Trump. And luckily, he didn't manage to cause any harm, but he could have.
Yeah, he didn't even get any shots off or anything. And let's bear in mind that I'm assuming in this particular case, the right is probably up in arms over like they should have stopped him early, they should have stopped him early. Let's bear in mind, there's a ton of stuff that someone could do that to you or I would read as incredibly concerning, maybe threatening, especially involving guns. That how do you think the right would normally, if it wasn't about an assassin targeting Donald Trump, would freak out over if the FBI investigated or tracked, let alone locked up someone for amassing an arsenal, having guns while posting vague threats online? Like they would generally say, you need to back off of these people. These are our rights. It's why, for the most part, I don't even know what they expected them to do with this particular guy. Up until he points his gun at the president, he's walking around in Florida with a long gun. That's freedom, baby, according to the right. What's inherently dangerous about having an AR-15 and walking around? They say people should be able to do that in Texas. They should do that wherever. That's your right under the Second Amendment. So there's a lot of stuff that they will temporarily pretend is suspicious enough for the FBI to do something only in the immediate aftermath of these attacks. But 99% of the rest of the time, they would say, no, the government needs to back off. That's just your right as an American to do those things.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a good point, but I would say that if the individual is specifically saying things that seem threatening, or if it appears that he's planning to cause harm, like who cares what the right says, who cares what the left says? The person should be investigated fully.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying expect that they're gonna have a problem with it.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you on that. Okay, so Walsh, by the way, also reported him again the next year in 2023, this time to the FBI. She filed the second report after hearing that he was trying to get Syrian refugees to fight in Ukraine. And Walsh wasn't the only person who took note of his bizarre behavior. Routh was well known among volunteer aid groups in Ukraine as a fraudster and kind of a whack job, said Sarah Adams, a former CIA officer who helped run a network that linked 50 aid groups to share information and coordinate humanitarian and volunteer efforts. In 2023, Adams sent the following message to Ukraine aid groups about Routh. Quote, beware of American Ryan Routh. Adams stated that
It's so vague.
I mean, hopefully there was more to it than that. Adams stated that a number of aid groups eventually reported him to the State Department. They were worried that he could be doing human trafficking or immigration fraud. And that's because he would falsely claim that he was working with the Ukrainian government to recruit foreign fighters. But it turns out that was a lie. They knew it was a lie, and that's part of the reason why they reported him. And it's also worth noting that Routh was reported to the FBI long before the war in Ukraine. Back in 2019, the FBI received an anonymous tip that he was in possession of a firearm despite being a felon, but the tipster wouldn't respond to further questioning from the FBI, so they just closed the investigation. Nice. Well, look, at least the Secret Service was able to stop him before he was able to cause any harm. But I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like we went through an era after 9/11 where any little misstep, even an innocent misstep, would like lead to you being on a terrorist watch list like almost immediately. But then now you hear all these stories about people who have been reported to various federal government agencies for bizarre behavior and threats. And it's like, oh, yeah, we closed the investigation. We had a follow-up question for the tipster, didn't answer any of them, so we just closed the investigation. Okay, thanks FBI, you guys are doing a great job. Fantastic. Unbelievable.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.